Boys and girls, I hope you're ready for a truth bomb.
Okay, so let me get one thing out of the way straight away. Spider-Man
No Way Home
doesn't suck. It's not perfect.
So I was wrong about Spider-Man No Way Home. As seen in my last video, I made a bet and I lost.
I bet this movie will suck, and if it doesn't suck, I will eat a cup of the grossest jelly beans possible.
You might be wondering, well, Mr. Blueberry, if you liked the movie, then why is this video 20 minutes long?
I surrender!
Oh boy.
Hold it right there!
Don't worry, I have plenty of unpopular opinions about Spider-Man No Way Home. But if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, and I'm trying to hit my goal of 5,000. Thank you so much. Now to the video. Spider-Man No Way Home failed to complete my Spider-Man Homeboy Sucks videos collection. But I'm okay with that. Truly, No Way Home didn't suck. But it's definitely not as good as people are suggesting it is. I see a lot of fans suggesting that it has somehow redeemed the last two MCU Spider-Man films, which is completely ridiculous. Now, to answer some questions I've seen in my comments. Did I love seeing Tobey and Andrew steal the show?
Oh boy, yeah.
100%. Do I want to give the Andrew Garfield movies another chance? Oh, hell yeah. Do I want to see a Spider-Man 4 and the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and even some more Tom Holland Spider-Man movies?
I love Dick.
I think that means yes. Yes. But anyway, my problem is that I see people putting this up there with Spider-Man 2 and Into the Spider-Verse, the golden gods of Spider-Man movies. And I'm like... This film is B tier at best, which, don't get me wrong, is pretty damn good, especially for a Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movie. I enjoyed a live-action Spider-Man for the first time since 2007. I'm very happy about that, but can't help feel like everyone else is overhyping this. Spider-Man No Way Home still carries a lot of the issues I've addressed with his character in my earlier videos, and only starts to fix them at the end of this film. What's odd about this movie is it feels like two separate films combined, but we are going to break it down like one of my favorite westerns, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Pizza time.
Let's talk about the good. Spider-Man Raimi memes basically wrote half the movie, and that's not a complaint. I just find it more to be like a Reddit page than a movie script.
Power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
My back.
But I kind of love that. It's more of a, let's take a bunch of action figures and throw them at each other and see what happens. But that's kind of sick. Aside from the stupid narrative beats, the Spider-Man action itself is top-notch. Every fight scene has a unique aspect that felt unique for this Spider-Man, and a little for the other ones too. The Doctor Strange fight wasn't as contrived as I thought it was going to be, and it was super enjoyable. This is where the movie shines cinematically speaking. Every single battle offers its own distinctive perspective. It's not until the apartment battle, however, that I see what I've always wanted to see. Some grown-ass man kicking the shit out of Tom Holland. The physicality of that fight was extremely gruesome and satisfying to see a Spider-Man completely overwhelmed by his rogues gallery. Something we'd never seen before in film, and I think they did a pretty good job of that. Lastly, watching the final battle was truly amazing, spectacular, and even marvelous. From watching the Spider-Men land in order of their appearances to some of them healing their old wounds, I was enthralled with every moment of the last 30 minutes of this film. The writing is also pretty consistent for the characters. Each cameo character, aside from Electro, is very fitting and continues those legacies aligned with what we knew of them. This part was extremely concerning for me, and I was most worried about the Stark tech, but ultimately, it was a very minor part of the story and made a good amount of sense when it was used. Having a continuation of these characters brought a huge smile to my face and made me really happy. Even if it's just nostalgia, this movie does nostalgia just right. It hit it right on the head in the best way possible. The performances and dialogue absolutely pay their respects to the originals they derive from. Andrew Garfield especially had some very powerful moments for me, and he really outshined the most out of all the Spider-Men. To me, this is a surprise. I wasn't a big fan of his films, and I thought that he played a big part in that. I was disgusted at his films prior, but now I feel like I gotta revisit them. Perhaps I judged them too harshly.
I should never have hurt you. Said those things. I love you.
Finally, we are going to talk about the big deal. Does this fix Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Not entirely, no. Well, not yet. But maybe. I hope John Watts has just cleared the slate for a new Spider-Man and for new creators to take the reins.
First movie is about Spider-Man really wanting to prove himself to Tony Stark and working so hard to do that he ends up screwing up and making things a million times worse. Like, that's just exactly how I felt on the first movie.
Oh, I know, John. I know. And while I like this character direction for Peter, it does feel like a last-minute retcon by the studio as opposed to a character development. Peter has finally faced some consequences for his actions, and better yet, he has even made a sacrifice for those he loves. Truly characteristics of Spider-Man. Peter has matured and realized that he has only caused harm to those that he loved. It's truly a bittersweet moment to see this character grow for the first time since Homecoming. We really don't get to see this Spider-Man all that much, as it is at the very end of the film. So I can't say that it's redeemed because it all depends on what he does next. It would be very easy to reverse the decision that they made in this film. Tom Holland's Spider-Man looks like he's moving in a direction that's suitable as long as they stay with it. It's early to say, but we may just see a spectacular Spider-Man come out of this franchise. I'm cautiously optimistic. This movie surprised me, to say the least. It added a lot of what makes Spider-Man so special. But even though I enjoyed this movie, it fell short in some key areas. The first half of this movie is all the same John Watts bullshit we have come to expect. Peter is irresponsible, continues to flip-flop on his motivations, and still has a bunch of Stark tech at his disposal, to the point where he wins a fight with a Bluetooth connection. It's pretty funny, but it's pretty stupid. I have watched the movie about 3 times now and can fully say it's pretty boring until the spell happens. Luckily, that's about 20 to 30 minutes in, but that's still kind of long. We get a cool Matt Murdock cameo, which is nice, but he's only put in the movie so that we wouldn't see the consequences of the last movie.
I don't believe any of the charges against you are going to stick.
Like, seriously?
From a storytelling standpoint and the Sokovia Accords, it would have been really interesting to see how the court of public opinion played out, as that was the ramifications for the end of the last movie. Even though this film has consequences, they aren't related to the most unique thing about this character and this story. This is the only Spider-Man movie we have where Peter's identity is revealed and out in the open. With that element, we could have seen a lot of cool stuff come to life. Instead, we get a Spider-Verse knockoff.
Avenge me.
Like I said in my prediction video, this movie was going to take out all the interesting aspects of the Spider-Man One More Day arc. However, I will admit the whole identity memory loss thing works way better in this movie than it did in that comic. The Mephisto deal was kinda dumb, so bonus points to the movie for making that plot point work out better. Ultimately though, this movie has the same issue as all the other Spider-Man movies in the MCU. Because Tom Holland's Peter Parker, at his core, is a dumbass.
I'm the dumbest person because...
Most of his motivation in this film stems from his guilt at causing his loved one's hardship, the hardship due to his identity crisis. So Peter even suggests that he distances himself from his friends.
My friends and I just got a second chance to get into MIT, and if the school sees me fighting these crazy monsters, then...
Hey, watch your mouth.
I'm sorry.
A few moments later.
I know this is my mess, and I swear to you that I'll fix it, but I'm gonna need some help.
And then immediately invites them on his most dangerous mission yet. As far as I'm concerned, he did not need them. Not sure why he brought them along initially. He didn't know that Ned's family were magic wielders, and MJ never had to push the button to send them all back, nor did he know about the button. If anything, they were more of a hindrance on the FaceTime call. I guess you could argue they were moral support, but I really don't think their characters were appropriate in this film. And I guess you could argue that MJ was, baggage for Andrew to redeem himself, but ultimately kind of a waste of space in my opinion. I guess I find it kind of ironic that this Peter Parker continually suggests that he wants to keep the people he loves safe and then always invites them to danger.
We're going with you. We're not going to leave you.
You can't come with me. It's too dangerous. You guys have already done enough.
Peter, we're in this together.
I know we're in this together, Ned, but I can't do this if I know that you're in danger.
A few moments later.
But I'm gonna need some help. But I'm gonna need some help. But I'm gonna need some help.
To me, I see that as a huge conflict of character. In most other renditions of Spider-Man, he is trying to keep the people he cares about away from the conflict, but not this one. Generally speaking, it's actually the villains that drag the loved ones into the conflict, which is to be a direct contrast to the heroes themselves. Peter says in the film that he is the most famous person in the world while he's still broke, but he says that while he's sleeping in one of the nicest condos I've ever seen that it's probably worth more than my entire family tree's salary combined. It's not just stupid and insulting to my broke ass, but it's also kind of a privileged opinion to have.
A wealthy man.
But the part that keeps me up at night is I don't know how many times this dude needs to get stabbed in the back before he doesn't completely trust every single evil bastard he meets.
Do you trust me?
With every cell in my body.
This guy, who was betrayed by someone he thought was a hero, revealed his secret identity to the entire world, turning said world upside down for Peter Parker. That Peter Parker then decides to trust 5 of the most dangerous supervillains in the multiverse in a goddamn condo? Oh, silly me, I forgot. He left the 7-foot carnivorous dinosaur unattended in a moving van. My bad. You think I'm being dramatic? Riddle me this. Why the fuck
Pizza time.
was Aunt May there? Why was Aunt May there? I'll tell you why. To die. Just die, and only to die. Because no one could figure out what to do with her character in the last 3 films. So John Watts dusted off his PS4 and beat Spider-Man and stole the goddamn ending. In my last Far From Home video, you might notice that this isn't the first time that they stole from the Spider-Man PS4 game. But at that time, I was kind of just spitballing. Now it's basically confirmed that they don't come up with their own stuff. But this is what the real ones cry too. In Insomniac Spider-Man on the PS4, Peter has a choice to save Aunt May or the entire city from an infectious disease. Aunt May gives Peter wisdom and support throughout the story, a character who sacrifices her free time to help others and leads by example, a woman who supports Peter while trying to conceal the fact that she knows he's Spider-Man, a healer who helps those in need whether they ask for it or not. Peter carries out May's last wish by not curing her and allowing for a vaccine to be developed for the entire city, something that breaks Peter to his core but establishes him and May as heroes for their sacrifice. She is quoted in the game as often saying, "When you help one person, you help everyone." So tell me why they put that on her grave in the movie when she never says it! Like 90% of this movie, I plan on fixing it in post with something she actually said.
Peter, not your problem, You can dodge bullets, but not banana?
For me, this moment in the movie is not earned. The situation is so contrived and avoidable that it didn't make me sad, but my girlfriend and I actually laughed. Like, no shit she was gonna die. I don't mind the sentiment behind this scene. I don't mind Aunt May saying the great responsibility line. And I think this scene could have worked. You just have to write it in a way where it makes sense. If Goblin had broken out and used his glider to fly over to Feast and kill May, that would have made sense. He knew where she was, and Peter was indisposed fighting 3 to 4 other villains at the time. Maybe Peter was too injured or too slow to save May. I mean, there's so many ways to do this. Any situation where it made sense would have been fine. But inviting May to host 5 of Spider-Man's greatest foes is a pretty shit idea, and there's no other way about it.
I'm gonna fry you from the inside out.
Thanks for the tip.
I understand the intention is to show that Peter wants to save these villains at any cost, which is a pretty good motive, but you have to admit he went about it in a pretty stupid way. What other way could he cure the villains without bringing them to his sick-ass condo? Imagine if there were some sort of prison where they could let one villain out at a time. A place you could transport the fabricator so that it would be secure, protected, and most importantly, away from any loved ones or civilians. Oh yeah, kind of like the Sanctum Sanctorum that they were already inside of that had that mystical barrier that no one could break out of. Peter is a genius, but apparently can't figure out Murphy's Law. I know it may seem critical, but these are weak spots within the film. Now, that doesn't make the film bad on its own. These aspects are individual, but they did lessen my enjoyment of the film overall.
Circus in town?
And now we get to the nitpicking. My biggest faux pas is that this isn't really a Spider-Verse movie or a Spider-Man movie. It tries to be both and doesn't really master either. The Spider-Man ensemble is a much stronger part of the film. It's an homage to Spider-Man films prior, which is a neat concept only if you watched and enjoyed the other Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
A lot of this movie is carelessly overlooked in annoying ways. The script, CGI, and cinematography are some of the most rushed things I've ever seen. Most movies have a plot hole or two, and aside from my prior mentions, there are even more in this film. Toby and Andrew's characters are swinging around New York aimlessly looking for Tom Holland for about 70% of the movie. I'm surprised they couldn't find Tom Holland earlier, or at least try to stop the villains that they could recognize rampaging through the city. Doctor Strange doesn't try to catch the other variants like Peter 2 and Peter 3, or even Venom. Ned having magical powers that come out of nowhere are not only frustrating and make Doctor Strange look like a chump for studying all those years, but that wasn't the way I wanted to see those characters reintroduced. It's extremely anticlimactic. The movie could have introduced Madam Web or used another character or a different situation to create this amazing union of these three superhero icons. But instead, it does a roll call in some kid's apartment. If it hadn't been for the hush-hush around the film, I think this scene would have been a major letdown for a lot of people. To me, this will always be the cheap imitation of the endgame scene. The premise of this film is interesting, but clearly it was cut for budget. People endlessly debate on the ramifications of Doctor Strange's spells because they don't make all that much sense. For example, it brings in all the people that know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, aside from Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, and Venom, but they bring in Electro and another Venom, both of which don't even know a Peter Parker.
Who are you?
A lot of my complaints earlier also reflect a script that was pushed out way too early. And now we gotta talk about the CGI. I find it laughable that this film was even nominated for Best Special Effects. Many agree that the CGI in this film may be the worst in the trilogy, and definitely out of all the Spider-Man films. The worst part of that aspect is that we have seen a lot of these characters already, created beautifully using CG many years ago. Even a film created over 20 years ago looks better than some of these shots. That being said, I think what's worse than the CGI is how bad the CGI makes the actual cinematography look. The CGI can be changed and edited at any time. As opposed to the practical footage they already had, they had to keep most of it. Because of this flexibility, the CGI shots are much more cinematic, but the standard footage looks much more stagnant in comparison. Let's take a look at a bunch of random stills in the movie. Medium shot, 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 OTS, insert, medium shot, medium shot, medium shot, city, medium shot, profile, Statue of Liberty, medium shot, 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 medium shot. But Spider-Man's not the only one with this issue. The Marvel formula has perfected itself much like the McDonald's burger. It fills all your needs so you don't even care how bad it looks. Spider-Man movies of the past have had an extreme amount of artistic integrity that is completely absent from this film. A Spider-Man movie should, for the most part, be fairly vibrant and have a unique perspective to fully capture the webhead. In the past, there have been some failings, but also amazing and unique shots and sequences that could only be done in a Spider-Man movie. And while a movie doesn't need to look good to be good, I have troubles with its direction and method of filmmaking. The quality of this movie doesn't hold up with any modern film or even the original Spider-Man film. I guess I will have to grant some slack due to COVID, but I really wish they would have taken their time with this one. Overall, we have a good film. Not a great one, not a terrible one. If I had to put on a list, it'd be above The Amazing Spider-Man, but still below Spider-Man 3. I do not think it's earned its place with Spider-Man 2 and Into the Spider-Verse. It didn't go all out with the Spider-Verse, but it didn't tell us a classic Spider-Man story with a twist. It used the multiverse to fix their character, and it worked effectively. It was also a great way to re-engage fans of previous iterations of Spider-Man back into this Marvel universe. That being said, when you look at all the recently revealed deleted footage, it seems that this movie could have been something much more. It seems that it's not nearly as ambitious as it could have been conceptually. But I guess we'll never know. But hey, I had a good time watching my childhood reborn in front of my very eyes, and I'm thrilled about that. So color me surprised, and damn were those jelly beans disgusting.
It's good to see you, dear boy.
It's good to see you.
I have never been more happy to be wrong.
I can almost
taste it.
Thank you for watching, and please tell me what you think below in the comments. Also, a like and the subscribe would help me a lot. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.